Hello, and welcome to 20 Minutes with Jesus. Take a slow breath. Let your heart soften for a moment. Trust does not grow when everything is under control. It grows when control is released. Let's begin. There are moments in life when control feels like safety. Managing details, anticipating outcomes, and holding everything tightly can give the illusion that nothing will fall apart. But over time, control begins to exhaust the heart. What once felt protective starts to feel heavy. This is often where God begins to teach trust. God does not remove control abruptly. He allows you to feel its weight first. He lets you experience the fatigue that comes from trying to manage what was never meant to rest on your shoulders. This is not punishment. It is invitation. Control often grows from fear of loss, fear of disappointment, fear of being unprepared. God understands these fears deeply. He knows that letting go can feel unsafe. That is why He teaches trust gradually, patiently, and with great care. Trust without control feels vulnerable. It means releasing the need to predict outcomes. It means accepting uncertainty. It means believing that God is present even when you are not managing every detail. This kind of trust is not passive. It is active faith. You are not giving up responsibility. You are shifting responsibility to where it belongs. God teaches trust by showing you your limits. You realize you cannot fix everything. You cannot prevent every outcome. You cannot carry every burden. This realization can feel unsettling at first, but it is freeing. It reminds you that you were never meant to be the source of security. God is. When control loosens, something changes internally. The mind becomes quieter. The body relaxes. The heart begins to rest. Peace does not come because circumstances improve, but because the struggle to control has ended. Trust creates space for peace to settle. God teaches trust because control restricts intimacy. When you control, you rely on effort. When you trust, you rely on relationship. Trust draws you closer to God. You pray differently. You listen more. You stop asking God to support your plans and begin asking Him to lead your steps. Trust also reveals where faith is anchored. Is your peace tied to certainty? Is your confidence tied to preparation? Or is your faith rooted in God's character? God gently shifts this anchor. He wants your faith to rest in Him, not in outcomes. Learning to trust without control also reshapes obedience. You obey even when you do not see the full picture. You follow peace rather than urgency. You choose faithfulness over certainty. This obedience is lighter and more sustainable. If today you feel tired from trying to manage everything, pause. God may be inviting you into a deeper trust. Not because you have failed, but because He wants to give you rest. As this episode begins, allow yourself to notice where control has replaced trust. Do not judge yourself for it. Simply bring it into God's presence. Trust is not learned through effort. It is learned through surrender, and God will teach you, gently, faithfully, and patiently, how to trust without control. When trust begins to replace control, the change is often quiet but unmistakable. The heart no longer feels the constant pressure to anticipate every outcome. Instead of scanning for threats, it starts to rest. This shift does not happen overnight, but it reshapes the inner life in lasting ways. One of the first changes is emotional posture. Where anxiety once dominated, awareness grows. You still care, but you are no longer consumed. You notice concerns without being ruled by them. Trust creates space between stimulus and reaction, allowing the heart to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Trust softens urgency. Control thrives on urgency. It insists that everything must be resolved now. Trust loosens this grip. You begin to accept that some things take time, and that timing is not an enemy. This acceptance brings relief to a heart that has been racing. Another change is how you pray. Prayer shifts from management to relationship. You stop praying primarily to control outcomes and start praying to remain close to God. Requests become simpler. Silence becomes safer. You learn to bring uncertainty into God's presence without needing immediate resolution. Trust also reshapes expectations. You stop demanding clarity before obedience. You become willing to take small steps guided by peace rather than insisting on full understanding. This willingness keeps faith flexible and responsive, not rigid or defensive. As trust grows, fear loses authority. Fear may still appear, but it no longer dictates decisions. You recognize fear without obeying it. Trust reminds the heart that God is faithful, even when circumstances feel unstable. This awareness stabilizes the inner life. Trust also deepens humility. You accept that you do not have to carry everything. You acknowledge limitations without shame. This humility is freeing. It allows you to rely on God's strength rather than exhausting your own. Another significant change is how you relate to responsibility. Trust does not remove responsibility, it refines it. You remain diligent, but you no longer confuse diligence with control. You do what is yours to do and release what belongs to God. This clarity prevents burnout. Trust clarifies discernment. When control loosens, discernment sharpens. You become more attentive to peace and restraint. Decisions are made with prayer rather than pressure. This discernment protects the heart from impulsive choices driven by fear. Trust also restores joy. Joy fades when the heart is tense. It returns when trust takes root. You find joy in faithfulness rather than outcomes. Gratitude becomes more natural. The heart remembers how to delight in God's presence rather than in predictability. Trust reshapes identity. You no longer define yourself by how well you manage life. Your worth is not measured by preparedness or success. Identity becomes anchored in God's love. This anchoring brings stability that circumstances cannot shake. Another change is relational. As trust grows, you become less defensive and more open. Control often creates distance. Trust creates connection. You listen better. You communicate more honestly. Relationships feel lighter because the heart is no longer guarding itself constantly. Trust also increases endurance. You learn how to remain faithful when outcomes are delayed. You continue obeying without needing immediate confirmation. This endurance strengthens faith for future seasons that may require patience. God teaches trust without control because it leads to freedom. Freedom from anxiety. Freedom from constant vigilance. Freedom from carrying what you were never meant to carry. This freedom does not mean life becomes predictable. It means life becomes entrusted. You walk forward knowing that God is present, attentive, and faithful. If today you sense trust beginning to replace control, honor that work. It may feel unfamiliar, but it is healthy. God is reshaping your heart so faith can breathe again. As this episode continues, remain open to these changes. Let trust continue to grow. Release control gently, one decision at a time. Trust is not the absence of concern. It is the presence of confidence in God. And as trust deepens, the heart finds rest. Not because everything is settled, but because God is trusted to lead what is not. Learning to trust without control is not about becoming careless or passive. It is about learning a new way of living, a way where faith leads instead of fear, and peace replaces constant vigilance. This kind of trust reshapes the heart at its deepest level. At first, releasing control feels unsafe. Control has often been your way of coping. It helped you feel prepared, protected, and ahead of possible pain. Letting go of that strategy can feel like stepping into uncertainty without armor. God understands this vulnerability. That is why He does not demand immediate surrender. He teaches it patiently. Trust grows where control is released. When you stop trying to manage every outcome, you begin to experience God differently. You realize that His care does not depend on your effort. He is attentive even when you are not managing every detail. This realization brings relief to a tired heart. God teaches trust by allowing you to experience His faithfulness. Not all at once, not dramatically, but consistently. Small moments where things work out without your control. Small reminders that God is present even when plans change. Over time, these moments build confidence that God can be trusted with what you release. Trust also changes how you handle uncertainty. Instead of panicking when you don't know what will happen, you learn how to remain present. You stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios. You stop living in the future. Trust anchors you in the present moment, where God's grace is sufficient. Living without control also changes emotional patterns. Anxiety no longer dominates. Tension loosens. The heart becomes softer. You still feel emotions, but they no longer control your decisions. Trust creates space between what you feel and how you respond. This space is where wisdom grows. God also uses this process to heal fear. Fear often tells you that if you don't control things, everything will fall apart. Trust reveals that God is holding things together even when you are not. This realization weakens fear's influence. Trust replaces fear with confidence in God's character. You trust not because you know the outcome, but because you know God is faithful. This shift is powerful. It frees you from the exhausting need to stay ahead of life. Trust without control also reshapes obedience. Obedience becomes less about preventing mistakes and more about following peace. You stop obeying out of fear of consequences and start obeying out of trust in God's leading. This kind of obedience is joyful and sustainable. God also teaches trust through surrendering timelines. Control often insists on specific timing. Trust accepts that God's timing may differ from your expectations. You learn how to wait without anxiety and move without rushing. This balance protects the heart. Living without control also clarifies priorities. You invest energy where you have influence and release what you cannot change. This clarity prevents burnout. You stop carrying responsibilities that belong to God. Life becomes lighter. Trust also transforms prayer. Prayer is no longer about persuading God to do what you want. It becomes a space to rest in His presence. You pray with honesty rather than urgency. Silence becomes less uncomfortable. Prayer becomes relational again. Trust without control also restores joy. Joy returns when the heart is no longer tense. You find joy in faithfulness rather than in outcomes. Gratitude grows naturally. Life feels less like a battle and more like a journey walked with God. God teaches trust because it prepares you for future seasons. Future responsibilities will require a heart that knows how to rest. Future challenges will require faith that does not panic. Trust formed now will sustain you later. Letting go of control does not mean you stop caring. It means you care without carrying. This distinction changes everything. You remain engaged, responsible, and faithful, but without the crushing weight of outcomes. Trust is practiced daily. Some days it feels natural. Other days it feels difficult. God remains patient through both. Every time you choose trust over control, you strengthen faith. Every time you release an outcome to God, peace grows. If today you feel God inviting you to trust without control, respond gently. This is not about perfection, it is about direction. God is leading you into a way of living that is freer, healthier, and more grounded in His care. You were never meant to manage everything alone. God is trustworthy. God is present. God is faithful. And as you learn to live without needing to control everything, you will discover a deeper peace, not because life is predictable, but because God is dependable. This is the freedom of trust. Let's pray together. God, we come before you with hearts that long for peace. We acknowledge how often we try to manage what feels uncertain, believing that control will protect us. Today, we choose a different posture. We come with open hands, ready to trust you more deeply. You know the weight we have been carrying. You see the anxiety behind our planning. You understand the fear beneath our effort. You recognize the exhaustion that comes from trying to hold everything together. And still, you invite us to rest. God, teach us how to trust without control. Help us recognize where fear has replaced faith, where urgency has replaced peace, where our desire to protect ourselves has quietly turned into striving. We bring these places to you now, without shame and without hiding. We surrender what we cannot manage. We release outcomes we cannot predict. We release timelines we cannot enforce. We release responsibilities that belong to you alone. God, quiet our hearts as we let go. When uncertainty feels uncomfortable, remind us that you are steady. When plans change, anchor us in your presence. When fear whispers that we must stay in control, replace it with reassurance. Teach us to rest in who you are. God, heal the places where trust feels difficult. If control has been our way of coping, heal the wounds beneath it. If we learn to manage everything because of past disappointment, restore hope. If trusting feels risky, remind us of your faithfulness. We choose to trust you not because everything is clear, but because you are good. God, restore peace within us. Replace tension with calm. Replace striving with surrender. Replace worry with confidence in your care. Help us walk faithfully without carrying the weight of outcomes. Teach us how to act responsibly while resting inwardly. Let our obedience flow from trust rather than fear. We place our lives into your hands again. We trust you with our future. We trust you with unanswered questions. We trust you with what we cannot fix or foresee. Thank you for being patient as we learn. Thank you for meeting us gently in this process. Thank you for offering peace instead of pressure. We choose trust today, not as passivity, but as faith. Lead us forward with wisdom. Guard our hearts with peace, and teach us how to live freely, without the need to control what you already hold. We rest in you now. Amen. As we come to the end of this episode, allow your heart to settle into this truth. You were never meant to carry everything alone. Trust is not about having fewer responsibilities. It is about carrying them differently. It is about knowing when to act and when to release. Learning to trust without control is a process. Some days it feels natural. Other days it feels challenging. God remains patient through both. If you notice yourself reaching for control again, do not be discouraged. Awareness is growth. Each moment you choose to release rather than manage is a step toward freedom. Trust does not remove uncertainty. It changes how you respond to it. Instead of panic, there is peace. Instead of striving, there is steadiness. Instead of constant vigilance, there is rest. This shift allows faith to become sustainable rather than exhausting. As you return to your day, resist the urge to measure progress by circumstances alone. Trust is often invisible. Its fruit appears quietly, in calmer thoughts, gentler reactions, and a heart that rests even when life feels unresolved. God is trustworthy, not because everything works out immediately, but because He remains present and faithful in every season. You do not need to control outcomes to be safe. God's care is steady, even when plans change. If today you feel lighter, receive that as grace. If today you feel tender, be gentle with yourself. If today you feel unsure, stay close to God. Each response is part of learning how to trust. Trust grows through daily practice, small choices to release worry, small prayers of surrender, small reminders that God is in control, even when you are not. As you continue walking with God, allow trust to become a rhythm, a quiet, steady way of living that does not depend on certainty. Let peace guide your decisions. Let faith lead your steps. You were never meant to manage life alone. God is strong enough to hold your future, wise enough to guide your path, faithful enough to care for what matters to you. So rest here. Release again. Trust again. Breathe again. God is with you, and that is enough. Thank you for spending this time here. If this episode spoke to your heart, continue this journey of trust. Let God keep teaching you how to live freely, without the weight of control. Until next time, remain grounded, remain trusting, and remain close to God.